the turning point. Sports reporters point to a fumble in football, a missed putt in golf, lost opportunity. In professional bass fishing, it can happen with a missed fish, a broken line, or a fumbled fish. Jim Bitter can't forget this moment. People keep reminding him of the turning point in his pro fishing career. August the 19th, 1989, Richmond, Virginia. The Bassmasters Classic World Championship is on the line.
Now let's remember, folks, he's got to have 610 to win. 610 to win. All right, watch it. For the Bassmasters Classic 1989.
6 pounds, 7 ounces.
6-7.
That happened over 3 years ago, but Jim Bitter is still introduced at weigh-ins as the angler who let the Bassmasters Classic Championship slip through his fingers. But Jim's not bitter. He thinks like a winner.
The only thing that could bother me if the wind gets really bad, and I'm in open water, so I'm subject to that, but if it doesn't get over 3-foot waves, I'll fish it, and I'll win.
We're at the Bassmaster BP Top 100 tournament on the Potomac River at Charles County, Maryland, one of the best largemouth bass fisheries in the Northeast. We've got the best pro anglers in the business and a field of top amateur partners fishing the next 4 days. There's over $291,000 to the winners. And for Jim Bitter, to predict he's going to win, well, he must have located a mother lode of bass. We'll find out. I'm Bob Cobb. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back with bass catching action from the BP Top 100 on the Potomac River.
This used to be bass fishing's best kept secret, until, as the Charles County, Maryland folks claim, somebody opened their big mouth. The Potomac River, the nation's waterway, an unbelievable fishery within sight of Washington's monument, the Jefferson Memorial, and the business of government, Washington, D.C. The bass fishing opportunities stretch south along the Tidal River and the many tributary streams like Piscataway, Mattawoman, and Nanjemoy Creeks on the Maryland-Virginia border. Fall fishing, late September, is a prime time for Bassmasters to visit. The bass are fat and sassy, hungry, feeding up for the winter. But there's a downside, the hurricane season. This Bassmaster BP Top 100 is the 4th major Bass Angler Sportsman Society's event in Maryland waters. And 3 times storm warning flags have gone up. Today, Tropical Storm Danielle is blowing up out in the Atlantic. Windy, rough water chases anglers into semi-protected tributaries. This is Nanjemoy Creek, downstream on the Maryland side, where Don Leach of Oklahoma won the 1990 Bassmaster Maryland Invitational. Todd Falk, a North Carolina pro, figures it might still be productive, and he's right. Falk and his amateur partner Donald Moore of Tampa, Florida, are casting chartreuse-colored crankbaits along the creek channel cover. With the Pro-Am format, the professional controls the boat and selects the fishing areas. The amateur competes in his division and fishes the back seat. But here, used water isn't a concern. You stand a chance to catch fish even behind a seine. Daily tournament limit is 5 bass, 12 inches minimum length. If a pro has any hope of winning the $46,000 first prize, each of those 5 bass has to average 3 pounds or better. And at the day 1 weigh-in at Smallwood State Park, that prediction may be short-sighted.
Watch the scale. 18 pounds, 8 ounces. Let's give it a great hand, folks. That is a remarkable catch. And if you don't mind, pick up a couple of the larger bass and let's show the crowd. This is a leader for sure.
With with 18 pounds, 8 ounces, David Fritz of North Carolina takes the opening round lead, followed by Jimmy Houston of Oklahoma and Jim Akins of Missouri. Jim Bitter of Florida in fourth, 2 pounds, 5 ounces behind the leader, is confident.
I lost 3 big fish today, but they're not going anywhere. I got a nice little spot where they're going to stay put, so I think I got a good chance.
In the amateur division, William Monroe of California leads with 10 pounds, 14 ounces, just 12 ounces ahead of Arkansas's Robert Wilcox. There's a $19,000 fully rigged Ranger bass boat awaiting the winner. This second morning, tournament leader David Fritz is north on the Potomac, within sight of the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. Wind has muddied his shallow water grass line. Today, Fritz is crankbaiting shell beds with a lime color pose diving bait. Yesterday, he scored with a 4-inch plastic crawdaddy pitched in milfoil grass. Jimmy Houston in second is having success in the back of a creek downstream on the Virginia side.
That one's the size you're supposed to be catching. That and bigger. Thank you, Lord. I knew you'd make a bigger one. Bite before long.
Houston is flipping a jig and plastic trailer.
Well, this is a real no-brainer way to fish. It's real simple. All you do, this is just kind of like perch fishing. We just fish in the edge of the lily pads, and I'm trying to stay in areas where the water is fairly deep, right close to the edge of the pads. Of course, the pads are all shallow, but some of those have got about 3 foot of water. When the water comes up, those bass get back in those pads, and you can't catch them, but when the tide goes out, like it's doing right now, well, they have a tendency to swing out to the outside side. And that's really the key, is getting them out here on the outside where you can catch them.
David Fritz is known as a crankbait master. The diving bait is his chosen fishing tool. But notice the rod. David favors a softer action, more forgiving fiberglass rod. A stiff graphite rod can cause a crankbait's hooks to pull loose when fighting a fish at the boat. He worked with Browning Tackle to develop his special cranking rod. Fritz has changed location, now fishing upstream near Washington. Jimmy Houston is still probing the pads and catching bass.
Well, thank you, Lord. That's 5, but that wasn't the one I was thinking about. Now I got 4 that need to go home. I need to stay here. I'm using a little 3/16 ounce jig. I've been using 2 jigs, both a Lonnie Stanley and a Bulldog, with a Jean LaRue salt craw on the back of it in black and blue. One of the key things, I believe, is a light jig where it'll really fall slowly.
Jimmy's not the only angler to figure out the pattern in the pads. A jig and pork frog is working for Ohio pro Larry Williams, who started this morning in 5th place, only 2 pounds, 10 ounces behind. And if he can get this one in the boat, he's got a dandy anchor bass for today's creel.
Six. He's a fighter, wasn't he?
Tournament leader David Fritz keeps adjusting and moving, changing locations, but he's sticking with the Pose 300 Series crankbait. David's boated a 5 bass tournament limit, hoping to cull with larger fish. He's got about 11 pounds. Believe me, that size fish won't help. In this tournament, you need heavyweights. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back with Day 2 results in the Bassmaster BP Top 100 from Charles County, Maryland. Check-in time, Day 2 of the Bassmaster BP Top 100. The anglers return in flights. Show up late here and it costs you a penalty, valuable pounds and ounces. It's been a rough, tough fishing day on the Potomac for the leaders. But true to his word, Jim Bitter, who's predicted he'll win this one, has a huge sack full of bass.
19 pounds, 1 ounce, folks. There's your new leader, I believe. Is he not? No question about it. pulled up a couple of these. They're not any, you know, wall hangers, but they're all big, 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 big. Good gracious alive. Folks, this is what it's about. When you put it together, this is what it's about. You don't have any company right around you?
No, I don't think anybody knows where this place is. I just happened to stumble across it about 4 years ago or 3 years ago. And up until now, I had only caught 1 5-pound fish on it. And the other couple times I checked it, there wasn't anything there, but I've been waiting for it, and they finally showed up.
Jim Bitter, a 2-day total of 35 pounds, 4 ounces, bumps David Fritz from atop the leaderboard. In the amateurs, Robert Wilcox of Greenbrier, Arkansas, takes over first with 17 pounds, 8 ounces. Day 3, the weather, bad news. Tropical storm Danielle is the culprit, heading north toward the Virginia-Maryland shore. BASS Tournament Director Dewey Kendrick warns the BP Top 100 anglers to catch their fish today. Tomorrow's final round could be called off. Winds near 60 miles per hour are forecast. Today, it's rough enough, rocking and rolling on the bow of the bass boat, trying to play a hefty largemouth bass in the Potomac River swells. However, David Fritz has the knack and uses his long cranking rod to advantage, till getting a helping hand from his amateur partner, Gilbert Cooper of Dupo, Illinois. That size bass will rally Fritz's chances, but our camera crew hasn't located tournament leader Jim Bitter. He's late for a scheduled rendezvous. Jay Yellis in 5th is fishing north of Fritz's location, above the I-95 Woodrow Wilson Bridge. He's casting along a row of submerged pilings with a crankbait or spinnerbait. So far, only small bass are active. David Fritz is still below the bridge. The bass are biting, but the size is small. He'd like to change locations. His outboard motor is the problem. Fritz sent word to the weigh-in site. He needs help. And Roy Ridgell of Mercury Marine responds to Fritz's SOS call. Major manufacturers staff BASS tournaments with field service crews, and to tournament fishing pros, they're like guardian angels. While Roy Ridgell looks to the problem, David Fritz keeps on fishing. The motor had performed on the trip upriver, then wouldn't crank. Here's the problem. No big deal. The emergency starting rope inside the motor cowling worked loose and jammed things. Roy Ridgell will make a quick fix. David Fritz hasn't missed a cast. He's still chunking and a-winding. And at the day 3 weigh-in, it's obvious tournament leader Jim Bitter didn't have any problems. He's got a heavy bag again.
Folks, Jim Bitter made a prediction here the first day that he was going to win this tournament, and he's the most soft, gentle-spoken man I've ever known. His weight today, 20 pounds and 1 ounce. Let's have a nice hand, folks. Jim.
It must be some fishing hole. Jim Bitter's weighed in 55 pounds, 5 ounces off the spot and leads by over 10 pounds. It's not over yet, but it might be a safe bet. Everyone else is fishing for second. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back, and we'll find out how Jim Bitter's catching all these bass.
In here, baby.
Day 4. Final round of the $291,000 Bassmaster BP Top 100. Tournament leader Jim Bitter isn't cutting the pack any slack. He started with a 10-pound plus advantage this morning. A 10-pound creel today should put the $46,000 first prize out of reach of the other 111 pros. There's a break in the weather, too. Tropical storm Danielle lost intensity during the night and veered away from the Potomac River area. The way things are shaping up, Jim Bitter will bury the memory and the nightmare of losing the Bassmasters Classic. David Fritz, now third, can fish his spot more effectively today in calmer water. He's optimistic.
I got an outside chance. You know, I was 7 or 8 pounds in the lead up here the last time I was up here and ended up finishing second. So anything can happen. I still feel like I can catch a 16 or 18 pound stringer, but that would probably be about as good as I could do.
Watch them hooks.
I know.
Jim Bitter's secret spot is still paying off. Over 60 pounds of bass taken off this nothing-looking spot already.
Got him in just in time. That one will work. That'll make about 5 pounds, and I need about 5 more.
Strikes are coming on a Fire Tiger color 7A bomber crankbait. But the underwater structure is the key to Jim's success.
This is about a 20-foot diameter circle out there of rocks. It's just a hump, and there's like a moat around it, around 3 sides of it. And the rock is top of the rock is about 3 foot from the surface on high tide, and about 1 foot at low tide. And the moat area of it is like 10, 11 foot deep around it. And then it just kind of fades down this way to a little depression in the bottom. I assume that's what channels these fish right up here to this dead end hump is what it is, because that's all a shallow flat back in there. It's the only thing I can figure out what holds these fish here, because this flat basically doesn't have much of anything to it. It's just flat with a little bit of grass on it. You don't see many people fishing this area.
With the tide out, Jay Yella's trying to hold on to second place, works the edge of a weed bed near the Washington National Airport. He's fishing a 3/8 ounce tandem blade spinnerbait, the Stanley Wedge. That's the lure Rick Clunn used to win the New York Invitational last week. The key is a fast retrieve, buzzing the blades just under the surface.
That'll work.
Well, Jim Bitter's hot spot finally cooled off. He's moved to a marina, flipping a jig and pork frog along boat stalls.
That's the mama I wanted right there. Tournament is history.
The spinnerbait, waked along the deeper outside edge of the grass bed, is really working for Jay Yellis. He's got nearly 16 pounds and can cull with this fish.
The wedge comes through again.
I'm gonna get bit here by a big fish. What'd I just tell you? Get your butt in here, baby.
Jim, you first congratulate you.
Now it is history.
Got her.
The champion, Jim Bitter, can smile. This one didn't slip away.
You missed that, and as a result, history doesn't record you very much in that tournament, except for that horrible moment. But this will help in some way make it up.
Yeah, I've been waiting since '89 for this to happen again. Matter of fact, I thought Father Time was going to catch up with me before I did it, so I'm really happy about this one. I think it'll get me on my way again.
Impressive. A landslide for Jim Bitter. 68 pounds, 15 ounces. A winning margin of over 7 pounds. Jay Yellis of Texas finishes second with 61 pounds, 11 ounces. And in the amateur division, Steve Hardy of Virginia charges from 5th to 1st with 33 pounds, 9 ounces. Kenneth Caldwell of Ohio is runner-up.
Here we go. Stay down, baby.
Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by Wrangler, the most comfortable jeans known to man.
For you fishermen who like to use crankbaits like I do, you're going to get hung up sooner or later. And I got a little technique that'll help you save some of your fishing water and your baits. You simply pull a little slack line on your rod, bend it like a bow and release it, and it'll jar your lure loose most of the time. You may have to do it 5 or 6 times, but it'll work most of the time.
Jim Vetter's back on track. He's turned the corner. Incidentally, Jim won the 1989 Megabucks, but folks only talked about the one that got away. Next week, our Bassmasters cameras catch up with Ken Cook, the 1991 Bassmasters Classic World Champion. We'll learn his winning ways and find out how you can catch more bass. For the Bassmasters, I'm Bob Cobb. We'll see you all next week.
This episode of the Bassmasters is dedicated to the memory of Roy Ridgell, who died of a heart attack October 26, 1992, on duty at a bass tournament. We miss him. The Bassmaster Tournament Trail lost a great friend and co-worker. The Bassmasters has been brought to you by BP, a leading producer of oil and gas for America's energy needs. DuPont Stren Fishing Lines. Parts Plus, America's family of auto parts stores. Chevy Trucks, the trucks you can depend on, the trucks that last. Ranger Boats.